Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Burke Brigade. Today is Wednesday, September 6th, 2017. I'm Matthew Burke.
And I'm Jennifer Burke.
Welcome to the Burke Brigade, brought to you by The Liberty Daily,
your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
Visit thelibertydaily.com for all the news that matters, all the news that you need to know in order to go out there and make a difference in the world and return to the constitutional Judeo-Christian values and principles that made America great in the first place, right?
Amen, brother.
Amen. Can I hear an amen? Okay, we're wound up tonight, and boy, are we wound up, because just as some of us predicted on the right and the left, President Trump got in bed with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer today, and it is extremely disappointing.
Extremely.
But it's not to be unexpected.
No, he donates them for years. Remember he said he touted how good a friend he was with Chuck Schumer? Look,
I get the whole thing, but he's not Hillary. Okay, just F that for a minute. I get he's not Hillary. That is done. But he's the president now. And if we wanted somebody to go to bed with Democrats, we could have elected Hillary. Or maybe, a rhino squish like John Kasich or Jeb Bush or somebody, right? So President Trump, he caved, Mr. Art of the Deal.
Yes.
Caved with Chuck Schumer.
Strong negotiator.
Yeah, Mr. Negotiator.
We had a very good meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. We agreed to a 3-month extension on debt ceiling, which they consider to be sacred, very important. Always will agree on debt ceiling automatically because of the importance of it. Also in the CRs and also in Harvey.
No, it's not important. No, it's not important. No, it isn't.
I'm sure most Americans wish that once they reach the end of their debt limit, they could say, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just raise the debt ceiling, give myself some more room.
Here is someone who tweeted in 2013, Donald Trump, bashing Republicans for raising the debt ceiling and caving to Democrats. So just amazing. But now he's singing a different tune. And we all learned during the Ted Cruz shutdown that the government doesn't shut down during a government shutdown.
It does not.
It's 83% open.
Right. I was going to say 17% shut down, 83%
That's it.
open.
And the government should be cutting 17% of its expenses anyway.
Right, because if they did, we wouldn't have to raise the debt ceiling and get more into debt with China. It is embarrassing that the United States of America is in debt with China.
I mean, wasn't Trump elected to fight the Democrats?
Drain the swamp?
Not to go to bed with them?
Drain the swamp?
My gosh.
Let's just add water into the swamp, Trump. Are you going to put some guppies in there too?
Which now we're going to be adding something because of what's going on in Florida. We had a very good meeting. We essentially came to a deal, and I think the deal will be very good. We had a very, very cordial...
just got to make sweet love to old Chuck.
Sweethearts.
Oh, yeah, Pelosi schemer. They really have the country's best interest. Oh, they're just wonderful.
Professional meeting. So we have an extension which will go out to December 15th.
Which means it's going to be the same circus all over again.
Include debt ceiling, that'll include the CRs, and it'll include Harvey. The amount of money that to be determined, but
you know what?
Because everyone
it
is in
should
favor.
not. It should not. Harvey relief should not have been connected to the debt ceiling. Trump, shame on you. Shame on you for exploiting a tragedy in Texas to handcuff the American people and to try to shame them into supporting this raising of the debt ceiling and continued embarrassment of the United States of America to be so addicted to big government spending that we have to go bowing down to freaking China.
I mean, this is what you would expect from a rhino squish. This is what you would expect from a McCain or a Romney or a Jeb Bush,
not
or
some big bad. I'm good.
I'm gonna drain that swamp.
I'm sure some of you are listening to us and you're thinking, "Oh, they're bashing Trump." Look, Matthew and I have had everyone that's been following us for the past few years know we were Cruz supporters. We were staunch Cruz supporters. Why? Because Cruz wouldn't have cut this bad deal for America and the American people with Pelosi and Schumer. Cruz stood on conservative principles. But we have said, once Trump became president, once actually he became the GOP nominee, that we would continue our stance, even when we were on the Cruz crew. If he did something that we thought was good, that we thought was constitutional, that we thought had the country's best interest in mind, we would praise him for it. When he did something that we thought was bad, was unconstitutional, was against his powers as a president, we would ream him for it. And that's where we are right now.
So now we're in reaming mode. So get used to it, because if we wanted George W. Bush again, somebody that just caved to Democrats and continued to raise the debt ceiling, we would have called him out of retirement and seen if somehow. But Trump was, he advertised himself as being against the swamp, as being he advertised himself as a small government secure conservative, somebody that would attack the national debt. But yet, all it took was for Pelosi and Schumer to say, well, we're going to tie Harvey relief to the debt ceiling, and he caved.
Right.
He folded like a tent. And
like a cheap suit.
And Mark Levin even said today, I haven't seen Chuck Schumer this happy since he, I can't remember what he said. He said, since he ended his constipation or something.
Yeah, Trump.
And you know what? He's not the only one happy. They're all happy on the left.
The problem with this, Donald J. Trump, is that you're not even a year into your presidency. Basically,
you're already caving.
You've shown the Democrats, just call me a couple of bad names to the media, and I'll give you what you want. What do you want, Chucky? Give it to you.
It's unbelievable. So here is Paul Begala, the slimiest of the slime. Democrat CNN hack. He's a Clinton operative from the 90s. And he is saying that Pelosi and McConnell, same thing. Mm-hmm. Pelosi and Schumer got everything they want in this deal. Trump gave the left everything they wanted in this deal. And it's absolutely disgusting and abhorrent. It makes me sick to my freaking stomach, because we were voting for something different than these swamp creatures. And why did Trump get elected? He got elected for a lot of reasons, but a lot of it was because Republicans continued to cave to Democrats, right? Conservatives, Tea Partiers, and then a lot of people that Trump, to his credit, during the campaign did attract, who had checked out, is well, here's a fighter.
Right.
Here's someone who's going to finally fight for us.
Fight for us. Give us a voice.
Fight to attack the national debt. The spending problem. Fight the swamp creatures. Instead, he goes to bed with Mitch McConnell. Always a mistake. Never comes out good in the morning. Endorses Mitch McConnell's stooge Luther Strange over two solid conservatives in the Alabama Senate race.
Telling.
Mo Brooks and
Judge Roy Moore, baby.
10 Commandments Judge Roy Moore. And now he's going to bed with Pelosi and Schumer. It's just,
are the Democrats going to start? Remember that meme they were running of?
Does he think they're going to love him?
Trump in bed with Putin. Are they going to start running this Photoshop meme of Trump and Schumer in bed together? Doubtful, because they love it. Because Schumer is having his way with Trump.
Listen to Paul Begala gloat. I mean, this is sickening. He wrote this on CNN. I never again want to hear someone ask why the Democrats chose Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer as their leaders. The two just made a deal with the guy who wrote The Art of the Deal.
Their buddy.
And made it the art of the steal. Poor President Donald Trump was lucky he got out of the room with his hair. On Wednesday, Trump threw his support to a deal that gave the Democrat leaders everything they wanted. Let me repeat that. Everything they wanted. Disaster relief funding and a 90-day extension of both the day-to-day funding of the government and the debt ceiling. Which, the debt ceiling is simply Democrats and rhinos stealing from future generations in order to buy votes today so they can be in power today. It's the ultimate of government greed. So here's, I can't stand this guy, Paul Begala. He continues. That means when the dual deadline for the budget and debt arrives in mid-December, Democrats have enormous leverage. They will be in a position to trade support for the budget and the debt ceiling for any number of Democrat positions, or priorities, I'm sorry, from health care to protection of dreamers who are suddenly facing deportation. So they bent Trump over once and gave it to him hard, and Begala's predicting they'll be able to do it again.
Of course.
And I have no basis to disagree with him.
Exactly.
Once you cave, once you have shown the ability to cave.
Once you show the Democrats a leg.
Yeah. It's unprecedented for somebody to turn around and all of a sudden get some backbone. Isn't that right?
Yep.
Have you ever seen somebody elected that got backbone after they got in office? If they didn't have it before they got in office?
Right.
So you have a lifelong Democrat, Donald Trump, a lifelong New York liberal. Remember the liberal
values.
New York values? We're seeing them now. We're seeing the New York values come out of the Republican administration now, and that's why he has surrounded himself with all of these globalist cucks. But there was one presidential candidate, as I recall, that predicted that another certain candidate would go to bed and cut deals with the swamp. This presidential candidate predicted that Donald J. Trump would make deals with Pelosi and Schumer.
I wonder who that is.
Well, let's listen to it,
folks.
This is January of 2016.
Prophetic.
We're seeing something fairly remarkable happen on the political train. We are seeing the Washington establishment abandoning Marco Rubio.
Let me start that again.
Made the determination that we're seeing something fairly remarkable happen on the political train. We are seeing the Washington establishment abandoning Marco Rubio. I think they've made the determination that Marco can't win. And they're rushing to support Donald Trump. And just yesterday, Bob Dole explained why the establishment is supporting Donald Trump. They said he's someone we can make a deal with. He's someone we can cut a deal with. And I would note, Donald, just a couple of days ago, drew the difference between me and him. And he said, look, Ted won't go along to get along. He won't cut a deal. So if as a voter you think what we need is more Republicans in Washington to cut a deal with Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, then I guess Donald Trump's your guy.
Wow. If you want somebody to cut deals with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, Donald Trump is your guy. That was January of 2016. It's over a year and a half ago. Completely prophetic. And today it came true.
Yep.
Now, do you think the problem in Washington, D.C., or let me rephrase that, do you think there are any voters out there that voted for Donald Trump because they thought there aren't enough deals with Democrats? That they thought
he would stand up to Democrats.
You know, we need more. What we need is more Republicans to cave to Democrats, because it's not enough having, the John Boners of the world or Paul Ryan or Obama's Mitch McConnell. What we need, I mean, the $20 trillion debt, which is a product of Republicans caving to Democrats over a couple of 3 decades. We need more of those people. We need a president that will cave more. It wasn't enough for George W. Bush to balloon the debt.
To abandon his free market principles to save the free market.
Right. What we need is a Republican who will really bend over backwards and spread them. That's what we need. Do you think there's one voter out there that said, I can't wait for Donald Trump to go to bed with Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer?
Yeah, do you think any
Chucky
Trump
Schemer?
supporters out there are thinking, wow, when's the next time I get to celebrate Donald Trump going to bed having a sleepover with Chuck and Nance? Botox Nancy.
I could be wrong. I don't think that's it. And, this is just a lesson. It's a hard lesson. I don't like it. I had hope. I still have hope. I will always have hope because that's all we have.
Keep hope alive.
Yeah, keep hope alive, as Jebby Jackson would say. Hope and change and all that. But I want Donald Trump to be a great president. And he had an opportunity to be a great president.
Yep.
But he's not
by
going to do that.
By leading instead of letting Chuck and Nancy lead.
Yeah. By instead of having these sleepovers with Pelosi, it's disgusting. These people are out to destroy America. Why would you compromise with cut a deal with them, destroy them? They need I was listening to Limbaugh today, and of course he is like making love to Donald Trump, and he's done it for a couple of years. And it's shameful because he was supposed to be the big defender of conservatism.
Yep.
He has not defended conservatism.
Nope.
He conservative populism, nationalism.
Didn't he even change, what was his initial Limbaugh Institute for
Conservative Studies.
And he changed it.
Right, now it's an anti-leftist studies because he's not promoting conservatism.
Nope. He's defending populism.
And, he didn't praise Trump. Obviously, he couldn't go that far for this deal today with Pelosi and Schumer. But, he didn't bash him. He didn't have the balls.
He didn't even bash him over that.
To bash him. No.
Good night, Rush.
And I love Rush.
Can I get the last, 15 years of my life back?
Can I get the 25 or 27?
It's ridiculous.
I was raised on Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh made a difference in my life. I love Rush Limbaugh. And all he could say was, well, I never said Donald Trump was a small government conservative. No, you never said that. But you had your tongue up his butt for 18 months.
Right.
You promoted him for 18 months.
You know the power of your broadcast.
You'd say Ted Cruz was the most conservative person in the race.
What was his advice?
For 10 seconds.
What was his advice always about how to vote in a primary?
Always vote for the most conservative person in the race, which was Ted Cruz. But that's not what Rush Limbaugh supported.
Right.
And now it's coming back to bite us. Now we're seeing what happens when you vote for a reality TV actor, lifelong New York liberal
who likes praise,
who listens to a few advisors to find out what his principles are, and oh my gosh, just because they flip-flopped the last 10 years, that suddenly he's discovered Jesus. No, he hasn't discovered Jesus. I don't think so. And he hasn't discovered conservatism.
Nope.
Otherwise he wouldn't be going to bed with Pelosi and Schumer. It's disgusting.
Disappointing.
This is what happens when you elect someone with no principles that they're grounded in.
Right.
Somebody that sticks their finger in the air to figure out what they believe on any given day.
Like Bill
sounds like Slick Willie, who you used to be friends with.
Right. Golfing buddies.
This was all predicted.
This makes you remember the whole rumor during the primary of whether Trump was a Democrat plant. Because after all, he had donated more to Democrats than Republicans. I know he said, well, I'm a businessman in New York. I donate to everybody. More of his money went to Democrats. more of his children, the majority of his children were registered. Some of his children could even vote for him in the primary because they were registered Democrats. And people said, is Trump a Democrat plant sent in by the Democrats to ruin the Republican Party, or contribute further to their ruin after it was revealed, or, the report that Bill Clinton encouraged Trump to run to, quote, make a difference in the Republican Party.
Right.
Is there any merit to all that? It makes you wonder with this deal with the devils.
Total deal with the devils. And I want to make this clear. We are rooting for Donald Trump. We want him to do the right thing. But we're not going to get into this cult worship, this personality of cult worship, where if he violates constitutional Judeo-Christian values, limited government principles that will make America great, despite all his rhetoric, or when he violates his own campaign promises, I'm sorry, we're not going to just, bend over and grab him. We're not going to do that. Here's Ben Shapiro tweeted today. In the last 48 hours, Trump sided with Schumer and Pelosi on debt ceiling increase and called for Congress to enshrine DACA, Obama's unconstitutional DACA. So much winning. Remember all the winning we were going to have?
We were supposed to be tired of winning by
Winning! I'm not tired of winning because I haven't seen any winning. I haven't seen Obamacare repealed.
No.
I haven't seen Obama's illegal amnesty repealed.
Nope.
I mean,
I haven't seen justice for the Brian Terry family.
Nope. You haven't seen him attack the national debt. Now, I will applaud him on going after regulation. I think that's huge. I mean, if he does nothing else but get rid of this stupid regulation, if he does nothing else but get rid of the rules of engagement in the military, he's done something good. But there's no reason to go to bed with Schemer and Pelosi to think that they somehow have America's best interests in mind, or your best interests in mind. They're George Soros puppets.
Right. Who's
out to destroy the country. Here's Steve Deace. This is turned it up a notch considerably. I hate everyone who sentenced us to this sham / joke / self-parody of a presidency and look forward to Trump betraying every one last of them. Ouch. Here's Guy Benson. Refrain I'm seeing from Trumpers in my timeline defending his deal with Schumer and Pelosi. GOP weak. Yeah, GOP's so weak, no argument here, that he's going to go to bed with Pelosi and Schumer? How does that make sense?
It doesn't.
So I'm going to move to the left. So the rhinos are to the left. Schumer and Pelosi are to the far left. And rather than go down the right road, the conservative path that got him elected, Trump is going to go with Pelosi and Schumer?
Well, they obviously
are you freaking kidding me?
Best interest in heart. Please.
Daniel Horowitz from Conservative Review tweeted, "What do Republicans have to do in order to get you guys off the plantation? They don't want conservatives. It's time to leave."
Yep.
Amen.
Stop being used and abused, brother.
And you know what? They never have. People say, oh, the party of Reagan. I grew up in the party of Reagan. It was never the party of Reagan.
No.
The establishment Republicans hated Ronald Reagan. The Bob Dole, Rhino wing, Republicans in name only, the chamber of, the cronyist chamber of crony capitalism. They were always against Ronald Reagan. The establishment Republicans were always against Ronald Reagan. It was never the party of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was an insurgent who, by his conservative message, forced the Rhino establishment into line for a short period of time. But they still fought him every step of the way. Here's Mary Catherine Ham. Trump and Schumer working together, you say? Who in the world could have imagined this? Who imagined it? Who imagined it?
Mm-hmm.
This guy. Let's just play it again.
We're seeing something fairly remarkable happen on the political train. We are seeing the Washington establishment abandoning Marco Rubio. I think they've made the determination that Marco can't win. And they're rushing to support Donald Trump. And just yesterday, Bob Dole explained why the establishment is supporting Donald Trump. They said he's someone we can make a deal with. He's someone we can cut a deal with. And I would note, Donald, just a couple of days ago, drew the difference between me and him. And he said, look, Ted won't go along to get along. He won't cut a deal. So if as a voter you think what we need is more Republicans in Washington to cut a deal with Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, then I guess Donald Trump's your guy.
Boy, and you know what? Here's somebody else who I can't stand. Anti-Semitic.
Oh, my goodness.
The worst president of all time, Jimmy Carter. But I'm sure...
Peanut farmer.
Yeah, I'm sure you remember this, honey. This was in February, so what you just heard was Ted Cruz prophetically speaking in January of 2016, over a year and a half ago. But in February, Jimmy Carter, Democrat Jimmy Carter,
failed Democrat president Jimmy
the
Carter,
worst president of all time until Barack Obama came around, said, I would rather choose Donald Trump over Ted Cruz. And do you know why?
Why?
For the exact same reason that Cruz said a month earlier. Because he would make deals with Democrats. So Jimmy Carter was asked, again, February of 2016, he was asked, who would he rather have, between, in the Democrats' mind, lesser of two evils, Donald Trump or Ted Cruz, who were the primary, leaders in the deal. Yep, 1-2. He said, quote, I think I would choose Trump, which may surprise some of you, but the reason is Trump has proven already that he's completely malleable.
Malleable. Do you know what that means, people? That Democrats
Squish.
could mold him as a squish into the image that they want. And Chuck U. Schumer and San Fran Nan Botox Pelosi did just that today.
Jimmy Carter goes on, which may surprise some of you, but the reason is Trump has proven already that he's completely malleable. I don't think he has any fixed positions that he would really go to the White House and fight for.
Right.
And we've seen that today.
I can't believe I actually agree with Jimmy Carter on something.
Ditto. And then he said, but by contrast, Jimmy Carter said, quote, Ted Cruz is not malleable. In other words, principled. Quote, he has far right-wing policies. In other words, he follows the Constitution. That would be pursued aggressively.
In other words, I thought you'd complete my sentence.
In other words, he would follow the Constitution.
Right.
In other words, he would
take a stand.
He would actually fight Pelosi and Schumer and all of these leftist lunatic losers.
I have to, I love bringing song into our podcast, Don, so I'm going to bring a little bit of song. Do you mind? Into our podcast.
It depends on what it is.
Well, I don't know if you'll know it, but I am a child of the 70s, but and the 80s. And so I'm going to take a song from the Beastie Boys.
Oh, my God.
And mix in a little Ted Cruz mindset for you. Okay. Remember that Beastie Boys song, Fight for Your Right to Party?
No.
Ted Cruz would fight for your right to freedom.
Okay, cut her off.
You like that?
Not so much.
Why not?
It just wasn't that great. But it's a good thought.
Thank you, hon.
It's a great thought.
Thanks.
Okay, so my understanding is that there's a Colin Kaepernick wannabe in the NFL who is trying his darndest.
Yep.
Another anti-police I don't know if he's Castro-loving, communist Castro-loving, but he's aligned himself with Colin Kaepernick, anti-cop, communist-loving.
And this breaks our heart because we're big Seahawk fans.
Yeah, so go for it.
We're big fans of the Seattle Seahawks. You know, Matthew lived there for 32 years. I lived there for 7.
Yep.
And last year, during the Kaepernick anti-American, I'm not going to stand up for the quote-unquote, according to Kaepernick's, racist flag, the Seahawks took a stand, and instead they demonstrated unity, and they would stand together and hold hands as a team. Every team member, every trainer, every coach, everybody held hands, which was great. I thought it was a great symbol. But now that Colin Kaepernick, the failed quarterback who only had one good season, his second full season in NFL, and he's been horrible since then, can't find a job, and the Black Lives Matter idiots are trying to force NFL teams into hiring him, despite his horrific stats, Michael Bennett decided he was going to carry on the Kaepernick anti-America stance and not stand for the national anthem.
I like to call them flag sitters.
Flag sitters, yeah. And this flag sitting led to horrible ratings for the NFL last season. It finally came out. They wanted to deny it, but it finally came out that it did. So, Michael Bennett, it's just been a disappointment.
Amazing talent.
He should be.
But also an
right,
airhead.
And sadly, he went to my alma mater, Texas A&M.
Oh, my God.
On top of that. But, he's been afforded opportunities that many people only dream of, making millions of dollars that many people cannot, imagine. Yet he wants to see himself as a victim in the, horrible, racist white man America. I have news for you, Michael Bennett. Your coach is a white man, as is your owner. But I digress. So, Michael Bennett went to the media today and said that when he was in Vegas during the Mayweather-McGregor fight, a police officer threatened to, quote, blow his effing head off.
But why did he do that?
Well, he claimed he was headed back to the hotel after the fight when he heard gunshots. Like many people in the area, I ran away from the sound looking for safety. He said they just singled him out and pointed their guns at him for doing nothing more than simply being a black man in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Hold on. Is that what they said? You're a black man, so get down.
Right. I'm sure you weren't the only black man watching a fight in Las Vegas, Michael Bennett.
So he was running from a crime scene.
Running. The
cops told him to get down on the ground, and he kept running.
He chose to run. And he's saying they singled him out for being a black man, and when he wouldn't get down, they told him he'd blow his effing head off. I'm just like, there has to be more to the story. So the cops said, we told them to, we announced for everybody to get down on the ground, and he did not do so. Now, when a cop gives you an order, you should follow it, period. You should follow it. You know what? Mike, MB.
MB is Matthew Burke.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Please don't use it.
Okay, I will not. Please forgive me, honey. Michael Bennett.
Bend it or something.
There are black cops, and if a black cop gives you an order, you should follow it the same as you would a white cop or an Hispanic cop or an Asian cop or whatever. So I was leery of this story when it came out. Just
it's a little too convenient.
It's a little too convenient. And Michael Bennett and his brother Martellus Bennett are they're these Black Lives Matter types, and I try to disassociate him from the Seattle Seahawks, otherwise I won't want to root for them. But if a police officer gives you an order, you follow it. I'll never forget, I've told this story, not on this podcast, but I've told this story before. A long time ago, Matthew has told you that I was a teacher for years, and I had this young man in my class, and his classmates would tell me, I was teaching an elective at the time, I was teaching theater arts, and his classmates would tell me, you should see him in the classroom accusing, this was like 2000s, early 2000s, accusing his white teachers of being racist. These are little black fellow students of him telling me that you should see him in the classroom accusing these teachers of being racist. And so I talked to him, and that's what he was doing. He was constantly butting heads with his teacher, and he was constantly in the office. So I asked him, I told him, I said, look, the next time he was a behavior problem, but sometimes he was good. But the problem was he was so problematic with his behavior that if the teacher heard something, she assumed it was him because he was always causing an issue.
Right.
So I told him, I said, I want you to try this. I said, the next time the teacher tells you to be quiet, I just want you to say yes, ma'am. That's it. Say yes, ma'am. Say yes, ma'am.
How'd that work?
He stopped going to being sent to the office for discipline.
Oh, so it worked.
The teacher was like, I told him, I said, I don't care if you were talking or not, because who's going to win that fight? She is in a position of authority.
Right.
You are going to end up in the office. So you say, yes, ma'am. It'll diffuse the situation. That's it. And you know what? The kid's experience in class, his classmates' experience in class, his teacher's experience in class was a lot better because he said, yes, ma'am. And as a result of all that, he ended up controlling his overall behavior better. So if a cop in a position of authority yells out to the crowd, do you want them to call you by name when they don't know who you are? To get down on the ground. You know what? You get down on the freaking ground.
You know what?
And if you want to say you're trying to avoid gunshots, I hope gunshots are trying to avoid. You know what? You get down on the ground, you're avoiding them.
Right. And then you wait until your name is cleared. You wait until your name is cleared. And then, you know what? There's no problem. I remember I was pulled over by a police officer in Redmond, Washington.
Mm-hmm. Remember
they were doing this sting. You know, there's very little crime in Redmond, Washington. And so they were doing this seatbelt sting where they were nabbing people that were pulling onto the freeway. And this cop pulled me over. I had my seatbelt on.
And you were not happy.
And he pulled me over and said, "You're not wearing your seatbelt." And, you know, he came up and we did the license thing. And I was so ticked, for lack of a better word, I got out of the car. I was just going to have a conversation. He got out with his gun and pointed at my face.
But, honey, you're a whitey. They're not supposed to do that to white men.
But I am as white as the driven snow. And the last thing I thought is this guy's a racist. Now, why is that? I mean, but if that was Michael Bennett,
right?
He would have pulled the race card.
Exactly.
So it's just a little too convenient. That he's an anti-cop agitator.
Black Lives Matter terrorist supporter.
Yeah, a Colin Kaepernick, you know, acolyte. Is acolyte?
Acolyte.
And then this incident happens, and he just conveniently resists the police, creates an incident where he's resisting, and then pulls the race card. It's just a little too convenient. It could have happened the way he said it. It's possible. But you know what? I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. So, in New York, the government of New York hates conservatives.
Yep.
But they do love the illegals. They do love the illegals. This is from thenewamericana.com. I mean, here's how... I'm going to do a little virtue signaling here. I mean, we started the Liberty Daily, and there's another great aggregator, thenewamericana.com. They've got a great story. According to New York State, illegal immigrants are more important than conservatives. And I was actually thinking this earlier in the day because Cuomo and New York are suing the Trump administration. I mean, good luck with this, for trying to end Obama's illegal, unconstitutional
and despite how
DACA.
Despite how liberals want to argue it, I heard actually some idiotic liberals claim, well, you can't say it's unconstitutional. Actually, I can. You know how?
Because Obama said it was.
The president can enact laws. The president does not have the power to enact a law. Obama said he didn't have the right to do so. His attorney said this will not stand in a court of law because it's unconstitutional.
22 times Obama said he didn't have the authority to do it.
We weren't supposed to notice those 22 times. We were supposed to notice the one time that he said he could. And then yesterday when he claimed that doing away with his unconstitutionality is cruel. So, Andrea Cuomo rhymes with... Andrea?
Andrew. Well, maybe in the evening he makes a little... maybe he does a little gender confusion. I have no idea. I'm not saying he does or he doesn't. But Andrew Cuomo, who happens to be the big brother of Chris Cuomo, CNN hack, he's going to sue Trump for ending an unconstitutional royal edict, right?
That protects non-citizens.
But here's what he said about conservatives only 3 years ago, telling conservatives basically they aren't welcome and they should get the hell out of his state. I mean, if you support, or if let me rephrase that, if you are against killing babies, mm-hmm. and if you are in support of the God-given right to defend yourself via the Second Amendment, then Andrew Cuomo 3 years ago basically told you to get the hell out of his state. And you know what? I would take his advice. Let's listen to this leftist maniac.
Have a schism within the Republican Party. You have the Republican Party is searching for an identity. They're searching to define their soul. That's what's going on. Is the Republican Party in this state a moderate party, or is it an extreme conservative party?
In other words, he wants the Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell. He wants rhinos,
right?
The moderates, the people that don't stand for anything, the people who bend over and spread their butt cheeks for liberals. Those people are allowed in his state. Anyone else, get the hell out.
That's what they're trying to figure out. And it's very interesting because it's a mirror of what is going on in Washington, right? The gridlock in Washington is less about Democrats and Republicans. It's more about extreme Republicans versus moderate Republicans. Mm-hmm. And the moderate Republicans in Washington can't figure out how to deal with the extreme Republicans, and the moderate Republicans are afraid of the extreme conservative Republicans in Washington, in my opinion. You're seeing that play out in New York. The SAFE Act, the Republican Party candidates are running against the SAFE Act. It was voted for by moderate Republicans who run the Senate.
Hey, newsflash, you maggot. Moderate Republicans are actually Democrats.
So he's saying basically you're an extreme Republican if you want to protect the unborn and you believe in the Second Amendment.
Yes.
And traditional marriage.
Yes, if you don't want to kill babies.
You know what? I've said this to you before, honey, and I'll say it again. Chris Cuomo does not have a job by talent.
No.
He has a job because his last name is Cuomo, and his family are all far-left, radical, progressive loons.
Yeah, and his dad was the governor of New York, Mario Cuomo. And, you know, the lowest rung on the ladder is his younger brother, Chris Cuomo, rhymes with, who is a CNN hack, who thinks that if you've got a 12-year-old daughter and you as a father or mother don't want her to go into a restroom with a 40-year-old man pretending to be a woman, then somehow that's a you problem.
Right.
Their problem is not me and the Democrats. Their problem is themselves. Who are they?
Oh, who are they? Maybe conservatives? Maybe Christians?
Are they these extreme conservatives?
Oh, yeah. It's extreme to believe in life. It's extreme to believe you shouldn't murder your own children. It's extreme to believe in that nasty old U.S. Constitution.
Or right to life.
Oh! Evil.
Why don't Chris? I mean, not Chris. Sorry.
Same difference.
Same diff. Why don't you just come out and say, I support the killing of as many black children and brown children as possible?
That would make him a racist, would it not?
That's what he's saying.
Pro assault weapon, anti-gay. Is that who they are?
See how they beat us with the language?
Anti-gay.
You know, here's
because if you believe in traditional marriage, that means you're anti-gay.
Here's their little effed up game. They put anti in front of anything, and it all of a sudden turns you into some bigot. That's the way they do it. That's the way they use the language to beat us.
Because if that's who they are, and if they are the extreme conservatives, they have no place in the state of New York.
That's right. Get the hell out. And you know what? If you're a conservative in New York, do it. Do it. Get the hell out. Leave them. They will implode. Leave them to their leftist, pagan, demonic ways. They will implode. If you're a conservative in New York, I want you to listen to your governor. Get the hell out. Leave them. Leave them to implode.
Starve the beast.
There are a lot of places. We live in Arizona. It's a great state. We're thinking about moving to Texas.
Texas forever, babe.
Yeah, there's a lot. There are a lot of good conservative states that would be more than willing, happy to take you, love you, accept you, take your tax dollars, take your spending money in the economy dollars. Do it. Listen to your governor, people. If you're a conservative, he wants you out. Let the leftists have their way. Let them live in their own hellhole. But that doesn't happen, because what eventually happens is certain of these leftists, they wake up, they realize the hellhole they created, and then they start going to other states to poison them.
Right.
They go to Washington,
create
and Oregon, and Colorado.
Where they came from.
Yeah, and then they're so poisonous, the progressive leftists, they try to create the same kind of hellhole that got him in the hellhole in the first place, right?
Ridiculous. Idiot.
Okay, a couple more things. So, in the Alabama Senate race, Mark Meadows, head of the House Freedom Caucus, which, by the way, are the only principled conservatives in the House of Representatives, he came out in support of Judge Roy Moore in the Alabama Senate race against McConnell's stooge, Mitch McConnell's stooge, who was endorsed by Donald Trump, by the way.
Donald J. Trump.
Luther the Strange. Luther the Strange. Here's what Meadows said. Love me some Mark Meadows. I am proud to endorse Judge Roy Moore for the U.S. Senate. The people of Alabama are seeing millions of dollars in false advertising flow into their state, Meadows said. This is from Breitbart. From what I know about the people of Alabama, their vote is not, all caps, N-O-T, not for sale. They want a strong man, a principled conservative, to send a clear message to Washington, D.C. God bless Mark Meadows, and thank you for that endorsement. Because Strange is simply a McConnell stooge. And there's a new poll out today that shows Roy Moore, the Ten Commandments judge, Roy Moore, with a whopping 16-point lead over Strange. Now, the President of the United States endorsed Strange. McConnell is spending millions of dollars from his Senate leadership scam fund to spread lies about Roy Moore, just like he did about Mo Brooks during the primary, just like he did about Roy Moore during the primary. And but yeah, even with all that support, Judge Roy Moore is ahead by 16 points. Why is that?
Perhaps because the people of Alabama are smart enough to not fall for the lies?
That's exactly right. Kudos to those guys. They are getting it. And you know what? Sean Hannity, who I've had some difficulties with because he could have got behind Ted Cruz, but he didn't. Now he's, having to try to make excuses for Donald Trump going to bed with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. But at least he did the right thing today, and he endorsed Judge Roy Moore. So good for Sean Hannity. Let's listen to what he said.
You know, it's interesting. I'm watching this race going on with Luther, whatever his name is, down in Alabama, and I had supported Mo Brooks. You know what's funny?
It's Strange. That's the last name, Strange, and it's so it's so fitting, right? He's a McConnell stooge.
There was an article. Did you see the article saying Hannity only supports losers? Meanwhile, did anyone remember that I predicted Trump would win? Here's what I do. I definitely go for the biggest underdogs possible sometimes to make a point. And I think I'm going to do that down in Alabama. Because I think Judge Moore is not going to be somebody that's going to bend to Mitch McConnell in the leadership. I really don't. Well, do you ever disagree with Trump? Yeah, I supported Mo Brooks. There, I have disagreement. Well, what about trade, Hannity? I thought you were I am a free trader. I believe in free and fair trade. And I've always said it.
So he goes on and tries to explain his Trump sycophancy. You know, I'm not into all that ass-kissing. But kudos to Sean Hannity for, bucking McConnell, bucking Trump, who is wrong in this instance. And when Donald Trump is right, we're perfectly willing to give him credit. We are anxious to give him credit, actually. But in this instance, he's wrong, and good for Sean Hannity.
At the end of the day, I don't think Donald Trump wants a trade war. I hope he doesn't, because protectionism's never going to work. But I do want countries that are charging exorbitant amounts for American-made products to get into their countries, and they don't pay anything to get into our country. I want them to play by the rules and pressuring them to do so.
Okay, so he's again explaining why he's for Trump. But at least he supported Roy Moore. That's a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got a huge following, and we're going to somehow try to segue to another.
Segue with like Mark. Just go into it.
Yeah. Another completely unrelated story. Go.
Okay, so this is just absolutely terrible, and it got worse and worse the more I read this article from The Blaze. A poem blasting God as a lie is given to middle schoolers at a middle school in Georgia. The fed up parents fire back. So this poem is called Unicorn, and it begins like this. God is a mythical creature, a unicorn with silver blood. If you drink the blood, you will live forever. It makes a good story
what the hell
in
are
a
they
book
talking
like
about?
Harry Potter. It goes on to declare that God is revealed in all his foolishness, a naked lie, a childish dream, a mythical creature like a unicorn. So this middle school, Cedartown Middle School,
shameful, said
the poem was used for a 6th grade Greek mythology lesson to show how a unicorn is supposed to represent a happy and safe place. The poem didn't focus on the unicorn, instead it bashed God. Now school officials are apologizing.
Now if that was Muhammad,
there would be hell to pay. Speaking of Muhammad, school officials said, "We just admitted it was a mistake. In no way whatsoever we want to defame God or go anywhere in that direction." So the language arts teacher whose file it came from has been teaching for more than 20 years. We're not exactly sure where it came from or even who put it in the pile of materials, the principal said. Well, a little research showed that Unicorn, this poem, made an appearance in a 2013 collection of poems titled Reflections on God, Islam, and Life.
Oh, my God.
The author is Johar Muhammad, aged 14 to 15. He penned this unicorn poem, and although he says in the introduction he's a practicing Muslim, he says that unicorn comes from an atheist perspective. Yeah, right, please, shut the hell up.
Who the hell was responsible? You know what? They know exactly who was responsible for teaching this brainwashing crap.
It had to be approved.
And even if it wasn't, they know who did it.
Yeah, the teacher knew exactly what they were putting into.
You have a teaching background. Of course they knew exactly how it got in there.
She wouldn't just put some random thing.
And there should be heads to roll.
If it was in her folder, then she's read it, regardless of whether or not she knew who wrote it. She read it, she liked it, she approved it, she put it in her file folder as, let me share this poem with my children to show how God, bashing God.
Right. Because anything for cultural Marxism, anything to destroy the foundation of this country, anything to destroy the Judeo-Christian values that this country was founded upon, and to reject God's blessing and God's values, somehow therefore. But they would never do that with Muhammad for some strange reason. Why is that?
It's their chosen religion. Bash Christians, praise Muslims.
Yep. Because they're afraid of the Muslims. Let's just face it. Honest to God truth. All right, we're going to wrap up here on this great edition. I mean, this was a great edition. If I have to say so myself, this was a great edition.
Was it great, honey?
It was great. Of the Burke Brigade. I mean, we were a little bit hard on Trump. Actually, we're pretty damn hard on Trump. But, he freaking deserved it.
He deserved it. We are hard on him when necessary. We will praise him when he warrants it. We're not going to just lick his freaking kneecaps just because his name is Donald J. Trump. And
my God. As Gordon Gekko said, sucking my kneecaps.
I have to say this, even though, we talked about Michael Bennett and his idiocy and stuff. And yes, Colin Kaepernick worked to ruin the league. But there are some good people in the NFL.
Oh, totally.
Like Dak Prescott.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Who said, it's my duty. I'm appreciative of the flag and all it stands for and the freedom and the opportunity I am given, in that. So tomorrow is day one of the NFL. And I, for one, I was one of those people for a while who said, you know what, I'm about to be done with the NFL. I'm about to be done. I'm sick of these anti-America bashers whining about how they're slaves making freaking $1 to $20 million a year. Shut the hell up.
Right.
But I'm going to choose to focus on people like Dak Prescott.
Right.
Who has appreciation for the opportunities that being an American has afforded him. Tomorrow is the opening day of the NFL.
Remember what Jim Brown said? Hey, dude, you don't disrespect the flag, bro.
All right.
You don't disrespect the flag.
No, it wasn't Franco Harris. Who else was it?
No, Franco Harris.
Franco Harris.
Franco Harris.
Never.
He goes.
Never.
He goes. If back in the day, in the great glory years of the Steelers in the 70s, when they won 4 Super Bowls, if we would have done what Kaepernick's doing, if we would have disrespected the American flag, believe me, Mean Joe Green and Jack Lambert, badasses, would have put a freaking into it immediately.
And wasn't Mean Joe Green a black man?
Probably a racist. Probably an
Uncle Tom.
And Franco Harris, probably a racist.
Uncle Tom, according to the left.
Right. Is terrible.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for turning into this, great edition. I mean, it was just so great.
I love you, hon.
No, really, we really appreciate you tuning in.
And we appreciate you sharing our podcast with your friends and family.
We love all of our 2 followers. We're just starting out, but we really appreciate your business. And when you listen to us, we understand your ears could be anywhere right now. So if you're tuning into us, God bless you. We appreciate it. If for some strange reason you turn into fans, please share our stuff on social media. The Burke Brigade, brought to you by
The Liberty Daily, your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
Go to thelibertydaily.com. Thanks again, everybody.
And let's please pray for not only Texas and the recovery in Harvey, but for all those in the path of Hurricane Irma.
Amen.
God bless America.
Amen.